Hey guys, let's get more news about Green Bay Packers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Green Bay Packers could make no-brainer off-season call. This is going to be a pivotal off-season for the Green Bay Packers. General Manager Brian Gutekunst and the Packers need to figure out how to close the gap on the Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings, and Philadelphia Eagles, whom Green Bay went winless against in their 6 contests in 2024. One of the Packers' top priorities is going to need to be continuing to surround quarterback Jordan Love with playmakers. Fortunately for Green Bay, the front office has done a nice job of building a roster of young players who can grow alongside Love and are mostly not yet eligible for free agency, so the Packers will continue to have some strong continuity on offense, in addition to whatever additions they make in free agency this spring. Ahead of free agency beginning in March, Pro Football Focus put together a list of each team's top candidates for the franchise tag. The outlet doesn't expect Gutekunst and the Packers to use it. Securing Jordan Love to a long-term deal last July, Mason Cameron writes for PFF. Took Green Bay's most significant expiring contract in 2025 off the to-do list. No other Packers player slated to hit free agency comes close to warranting such a sizable investment the franchise tag entails. This is a no-brainer for Gutekunst and the Packers. Green Bay is projected to have upwards of $39 million in cap space, which should allow Gutekunst to be a big player at the top of the market when it comes to possibly adding an elite edge rusher, top-tier wide receiver, or even more help at linebacker. Filling any or all of those needs is a far more prudent use of resources than using the tag, which ensures the player is paid the average of the top 5 salaries at his position for the upcoming season. Packers Super Bowl 60 odds positioned favorably after playoff exit. After a season that began with optimism but ended in disappointment, the Green Bay Packers are heading into the 2025 season with improved Super Bowl odds compared to the previous year. Despite an early playoff exit, sportsbooks see potential in the team's growth and emerging talent. DraftKings Sportsbook has released its early Super Bowl 60 betting odds following the Philadelphia Eagles' dominant victory over the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59. The Eagles, who eliminated the Packers in the wild card round, are currently the favorites at plus 600. Other top contenders include the Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens, and Buffalo Bills at plus 700, while the Detroit Lions stand at plus 900. The San Francisco 49ers, another NFC powerhouse, are listed at plus 1,500, while the Packers share plus 1,800 betting odds with the Cincinnati Bengals. This marks an improvement from their standing at this time last year. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Rams and Los Angeles Chargers are further down at plus 2,800. NFC North rivals Minnesota Vikings and Chicago Bears are at plus 4,000, and the Tennessee Titans have the longest odds at plus 20,000 despite the bitter end to their playoff run. The Packers front office remains optimistic about the team's future. General Manager Brian Gutekunst acknowledged the disappointment of the early exit but emphasized the strides the team made throughout the season. "You try not to live too much in the moment," Gutekunst said following the loss to the Eagles. "Whenever you lose the last game, you're disappointed because of the missed opportunity. But I think this team showed a lot of growth, especially individual players. We added new pieces, brought in a new defensive coordinator, and saw some really positive developments. I'm excited about what's ahead." This optimism is reflected in early betting odds, with the Packers considered one of the stronger bets for a deep playoff run. According to a FanDuel analyst Skylar Carlin, the team's defensive improvements under new coordinator Jeff Hafley played a significant role in their success. Hafley helped Green Bay finish as the 4th-best schedule-adjusted defense in 2024, a key factor in their postseason push. Additionally, the strong relationship between head coach Matt LaFleur and quarterback Jordan Love bodes well for the team's continued development. If the Packers can address key roster gaps, particularly at wide receiver, they could emerge as a serious contender in the NFC, especially with the Lions losing both of their coordinators. One of the biggest questions heading into the offseason is whether the Packers will acquire a top-tier wide receiver to support Jordan Love. Former Packer Davante Adams is the most proven number one receiver potentially available, though he would require a trade. Other notable names include impending free agent T. Higgins, who has never been a true number one target, as well as Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel, both of whom could be trade candidates. Jordan Love, however, remains confident in his current group of receivers. Speaking on Up and Adams during Super Bowl week, he expressed faith in the team's ability to succeed regardless of offseason moves. "I'm a competitor. It doesn't matter who we got," Love said. "Every year, new teams form, new faces arrive, and you have to find ways to gel and do great things. I love our group. If we add a guy, great. If not, we'll find a way." With a promising roster, an ascending quarterback, and an improving defense, the Green Bay Packers have positioned themselves as a legitimate contender in 2025. Whether they take the next step will depend on key offseason moves and continued player development. Packers linked to blockbuster trade for elite $94 million pass rusher. The arms race is on in the NFC North Division, where the Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings, and Chicago Bears are all primed to make major personnel moves in either free agency, the NFL draft, or both. The Green Bay Packers have more than $44.5 million in 2025 salary cap space as of Monday, February 10, which is 13th in the NFL but still behind all three of its divisional opponents by a significant margin. The Packers may have a tradable piece in the secondary in cornerback Jaire Alexander, but they will also have to replace both he and cornerback Eric Stokes in a defensive backfield that struggled with injuries and performance over the past 2 seasons. But it isn't just the secondary that Green Bay has to get right this offseason if the team hopes to reclaim the division from Detroit while also holding off a Minnesota squad that won 14 games in 2024. The Packers also need to figure out a way to get more pressure on opposing quarterbacks and wreak more havoc in the process. Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero of NFL Network linked Green Bay to a potential trade for star defensive end Max Crosby, should the Las Vegas Raiders decide to truly commit to a rebuild this offseason. Crosby wants to win and be a big reason behind the success. While the hiring of Super Bowl winner Pete Carroll was a step toward stability, the Raiders still don't have a franchise quarterback and have a ton of work to do to field a competitive roster, Rappaport and Pelissero wrote on Sunday, February 9. Trading Crosby for a bounty of picks would be one way to expedite that process, and Crosby might welcome the change, particularly if it's to a playoff team where he knows people, e.g. Green Bay. Crosby has 2 years and about $44 million remaining on the contract extension he signed in 2022. The deal Crosby signed was worth a total of $94 million, which is actually a bargain based on his consistently high-end production. Crosby, 27 years old, has tallied 59.5 sacks and 105 tackles for loss across his 6-year career, 95 games. He has earned Pro Bowl honors in each of the past 4 seasons after finishing second in NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year voting in 2019. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Max Crosby? Leave your opinion in the comments.